7:25.
And we're joined now in the Auckland studio by the new Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, one of the first big challenges that you've got is this international meeting. You're going to go to APEC, and one of the big focus there is going to be the TPP. And you've got this issue here, haven't you, that you want to support a TPP if you can make good on your promise to ban foreigners from buying houses in New Zealand. Talk us through how you're going to do that.
That is correct. That is one of our challenges. And of course, we've always contended that we didn't believe we should be in this binary position because, of course, we do want to make sure that as a party that believes in free trade and has championed it, that we wanted to be able to support our exporters. We did not want that to be at the cost, however, of managing the housing crisis that we have here in New Zealand. So we've maintained that, in fact, the last government should always have sought the ability of New Zealand to take action in that regard. And the fact that they didn't has always been a source of great frustration for us. We set out, though, that we would, in office, make sure that we took efforts and steps to make sure that we were able to ban foreign buyers in our domestic market. Now that we are in the position of being able to access additional advice and access officials, as soon as we had the chance, we undertook to do some of that work, which I've been doing over the last week in conjunction particularly with our Trade Minister, David Parker. I'm looking to try and resolve that issue before we go to APEC, before we're in a position of having to undertake additional talks around TPP 11, so we can be assured that we are no longer in this binary position of choosing one over the other.
Okay, this is really interesting because this is where we get to the rubber hitting the road then. You can rule out stamp duties?
Well, look, the advice that I've had early on is that stamp duties, whilst the government has always claimed that that was a mechanism available to us, that may come up against some of our other trade agreements.
Okay, so you can this morning rule out stamp duties?
I'm going to make sure I look at all the options available to us. I will be announcing when we settle on a resolution which option is going to work best for us.
Have you read the Herald this morning?
I have indeed.
Yeah, your Trade Minister's ruled out stamp duties.
Yeah, because...
Are you both in agreement?
Look,
okay,
we're in agreement.
So stamp duties are out?
Guy, and we're in agreement that stamp duties have an effect on other trade deals.
Okay, well, he was asked if he was ruling out the use of stamp duties. David
because
Parker
of the effect
said,
on other trade deals.
Okay,
exactly.
So that's gone. That's off the table. It looks then that you are looking to legislate before ratification of TPP. Would that allow you to both sign TPP and ban foreign buyers?
If we find the right mechanism that can deliver what we've always sought, which is the effect of being able to ban foreign buyers, if that is in place before TPP 11 is ratified, our understanding is that it would achieve the outcome that we're looking for. But as I say, I am in the process now of finalising some of the advice that I've had. I've got to make sure we do this properly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting, though. So this is the new information, if you like, that you would be able to, as you understand it, legislate to ban foreign buyers as long as that happens before ratification of TPP, then the Labour-led government would be able to sign TPP and meet its commitment to ban foreign buyers.
We have to, of course, use the right mechanism as well, because there are implications for the different tools that you'll use. So we're looking at making sure that we get that right so that we're not acting in a way that is counter to other agreements in the mechanism that we use. But yes, my understanding is that there is the possibility, if we find the right mechanism, to be able to get this in place before ratification, then it would be able to take effect.
So I imagine that before leaving for APEC, you will announce legislation.
My ambition is to find a resolution before we leave for APEC. I do want to add, though, yes, we would then be removing what has been one of our biggest stumbling blocks for TPP 11. We've been really clear about that. We never wanted to be in a position where we were being asked to trade away our ability to manage our housing market against what we wanted to pursue for exporters.
You know the Greens are going to hate the fact that you signed TPP, aren't they?
There are some additional challenges that, yes, we still have. And that would allow us to focus in on issues like ISDS clauses, which actually most states at some time or another have also taken issue with.
Right, so that's an issue for you, but not a die-in-the-ditch one like the foreign buyers.
It is an issue for us. It's an issue for many states, but it would mean if Guy, on if I am able to find resolution on this issue, which we're working very hard on, if we're able to find resolution, it does give us the ability to focus in then on making sure, on working on those ISDS clauses.
Okay, I want to move in the final part of this interview to some of the costings, and I know you're getting questions on this morning, but just finally on trade. I think some people were surprised to see in the coalition agreements that you signed up to that New Zealand first wanted a free trade agreement with Kazakhstan, Russia and Belarus. Is that why have you signed up to that?
Oh, and again, that was something that Mr. Peters was quite focused on. He spoke about it in our early press conference.
Why is
I wouldn't say
focused on that?
He sees an opportunity there, and I think that's a nod.
It's strange,
generally.
though, isn't it, for someone who's described as a protectionist, who didn't like the TPP, to want a free trade agreement with Kazakhstan, Belarus and Russia.
Mr. Peters, in our talks and since then, has made it very clear that under the right circumstances, that he is a supporter of trade agreements. But again, under the right circumstances,
he didn't support the free trade agreement with China.
ISDS clauses are a concern.
He didn't support the China FTA, did he?
Yeah, but again,
are you keen on progressing a Russia Kazakhstan free trade agreement?
I'm keen on extending our exporters' reach under the right circumstances for them and for us.
And so that includes Russia?
Yeah, well, look, that's something that he wants to prioritise. And as our Foreign Affairs Minister, that's something I would support him. But we've also got some other priorities particularly around the EU.
Oh, indeed. Maybe we'll talk that through another time. But there's been some focus on your costings because you've signed up to, 70 new policies. Obviously, you've got to give stuff away to these other coalition partners.
Not all of which come at a cost.
No, not all of them.
Yep.
No, some of them are cost-free, aren't they?
Yes.
And commitments to do stuff and reviews and so forth. How much extra cost has been added on from these agreements? How much?
And we've done some estimates based with our own resources. So I can tell you, for instance, we've costed the cost of extra breast screening, the cost of extending a free visit to over 65s.
I'll pick you up on one word you said there, our own costings, because you did have access to Treasury and officials in those negotiations.
That's
so what did they tell you?
That's right. But
what did they tell you the costs were going to be?
Some of that was not timely enough for us to be able to access it. So now that we're in the position where we can,
but you've got an estimate there, haven't you? In you know what it is as we are speaking now. You know what the number is.
On some of those
you know what the
costings,
overall number is, don't you?
On those individual costings, I do have some estimates. But we are going to release
What's
that.
The estimate?
We've got a requirement as part of our half-yearly fiscal economic update to release, under the Public Finance Act, our costings going into the budget.
The HAFA, isn't it?
So, yes, that's correct. Yeah. So, and we also have to put out a budget policy statement. So by the end of the year, we will release that.
Fair enough.
Those numbers will be fully developed.
So you're basically saying you do know what it is, but you prefer to do it properly, get it right down to the last decimal point and zero and tell us exactly what it is then. But it is going to be within your budget responsibility rules?
That is correct.
Yeah. Just finally, do you share the pessimism of the Right Honourable Winston Peters when he said on the day that he announced that he was going to go with Labour about the economy?
If we'd continued on the same track that the government had planned for us, which was basically an economy that sat on a foundation of population growth and housing speculation. But I'm really confident that if we do focus on some of the mechanisms we want to use around investing in our productive economy, that we can withstand any future bumps with a bit more resilience.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Do appreciate you coming into the studio. It's the new Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern. It's 26 minutes to 8.
Coming up before 8 on Morning Report, we'll be asking why Kuwait. We'll also talk to Infrastructure New Zealand about its hopes for a new big city on the outskirts of Auckland. And the European Parliament's voted to fast-track a free trade deal with Australia and New Zealand. The headline